Welcome to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. We're so glad you're here. Hey everybody, welcome to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. I am your co-host Alan with my good friend Paul. And
hello.
Hey. And we are joined by actually one of our mutual dear friends, Senor James Wooten, a front of house, from what we talked about just off camera a second ago, front of house monitors, TM and PM extraordinaire, and from the great area of Kansas City. And James, welcome so much.
Hey guys, it's me, your local trash can of gigs. So
I have to just, because this has happened recently. Welcome so much.
I don't know. I just thought that. I don't know what that was. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll just keep
How about
going.
welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are too.
What, you're here too? I know. Paul, you're barely here. So Paul, while you and I both know James for several years, and it was your idea to have him on the podcast. So why don't you pitch us? Tell us why James is here.
Yes. So for those who have listened to every episode, which fortunately is more than a few of you, thank you all. A couple of weeks ago, I don't even know when this was, might have been in the summer still. Alan and I were doing a question of the week about front of house engineers not being trusted to manage your reverb on your guitar pedal board. And we joked that the answer to the question was not a 2-stage reverb, but just trust your front of house guy. And I was like, what a great idea to have a front of house engineer on to talk about the little pet peeves that guitarists cause for them. Because I have been on the side where I have to manage a guitar player that just after sound check turns their amp up a little bit. That's one for me where it's like, hey man, we checked on one. I've also been the guitar player who does that. So literally, I think on the episode, I said, Alan, we should have our mutual friend from Kansas City come talk about this because it'd be fun. And then I literally texted James right after we finished recording, and now here we are.
Well, and lo and behold, and I know this is like audio only, but for those of y'all, you can imagine James is wearing a KC hat, which
sure am.
You're really on brand today.
Yeah, a KC hat and I think a Joywave shirt. Yeah,
yeah.
Just a walking billboard right now. I think
just wearing a piece of merch for every band you've ever mixed for.
I don't know if there's enough space on my body. So
yes, well, thank you, James, for coming on. Beyond the podcast, I was just stoked to catch up with you because I feel like we text like every once in a blue moon when like a random thought appears in one of our heads or something, or you happen to be in town and we don't get to meet up, which is always a bummer to me. So I'm glad you were here. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
About all things. So
I'm excited too. I haven't done a podcast for a long time, and the last time I accidentally logged into the podcast a month early and luckily didn't interrupt them shooting something else.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny.
See, but this time I got it right.
Well,
we also I was gonna say you got it right. I didn't get it right this time. I'm recording on AirPods, so but say la vie.
Well, and we don't think about month and ahead, so month in advance.
Yeah,
I can't talk today, y'all. Sorry. I think it's
totally
James.
fine. We're here for James to talk.
It's James.
Oh no,
we can
James talk.
I don't know if I can talk very much either. I did go get this coffee with this absurdly long straw. I don't know if you can see that, but
I see that.
I keep hitting myself in the eyeball with it.
Man, Paul, one of these days we'll have to jump to video and figure out a way not to distract each other because it is more.
I was actually thinking we could do that today, but now I'm on a computer that doesn't have a camera and my iPhone wouldn't connect to be the camera. So I'm like the most tech failure today, and it's really embarrassing because I want James to think we're a more professional outlet than this.
Nah,
James knows both of us.
Yeah, you're good. I know what I got myself into. Don't worry.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, this is going to be a pretty open-ended question, but I'm thinking front of house specific. So for our listeners who may not realize, and that what that means is you are, as a front house engineer, you are the sound engineer who is at the soundboard, typically somewhere in the middle of the room, and your responsibility is to get the sounds that the band is creating, whether live or also with tracks, whatever the case is. You have your soundboard, your outboard effects, all those sorts of things. And your job is to paint that audio picture for all of us, the audience.
Yeah, basically everything that the band does on stage really doesn't get to the audience unless it goes through me. So I'm kind of the be all end all of what the audience hears, hopefully, unless a guitarist or drummer plays very, very loud on the stage, but then that makes my life more difficult sometimes.
Well, so let's talk about that, and we can have a session and we can just complain about drummers if we want. But this podcast, this channel is kind of dedicated to guitar and synth players, and really anyone that's using effects. So we can include bassists there, and
sure,
acoustics, whatever the case is. But from your standpoint, what are some of, I guess maybe some of the things that you wish more guitarists knew when it came to effects as it pertains to how you get that sound out?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, as we were talking before we started recording, one of the big things for me that I always go back and forth with guitars about is actually reverb. Because nowadays, most of the bands I work with are on in-ear monitors. And so, they'll have a part or like a reverb that trails off between songs or something like that. Mm-hmm. And what they don't realize is that as they have stacking reverbs or delay into a reverb or something, or just a really, really long reverb, it actually gets very harsh, and it doesn't sound like reverb in the room. It just sounds like a 4 kilohertz tone straight into your eardrums. Mm. And whereas in the in-ears, it's not reacting with the room at all, because it's going straight into their ears, so they don't have the room reverberating as well. So I'll often have a conversation with the guitarist and be like, look, get a really long cable or a wireless unit and come out here and just listen to that, because it's not a pleasant reverb wash. It's like having an ice pick driven into your ears sometimes.
Oh.
Yeah. So we go back and forth about that a little bit. Another thing, and I know a lot of front of house engineers get more mad about this, but there's kind of a balance, I feel like, between, okay, so you'll have a guitarist go up and they'll be like, okay, which overdrive sounds better, this one or this one? And it sounds exactly the same to me. It makes no difference at all. But if one of them makes you feel, as a guitarist, makes you feel better or play better, then that actually gives me more, that makes my job easier, makes me happier. So although the actual tone of your 2 overdrives really doesn't make a difference to me, whichever one makes you feel better, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that one's good, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of front of house engineers don't think about that so much. They're just like, why the hell are you asking me this? They sound exactly the same, which is not a good response.
Sure. So you mean all of our, as guitarists, all of the energy that we spend trying every iteration of the Tube Screamer, the Blues Driver, the Blues Breaker, the Klon, the Rat, and the Timmy, and whatever else, doesn't matter?
I would say it would matter more in the studio and probably in the ears, whereas in a room with PA, the instant that sound wave leaves the speaker, it starts bouncing around the room, which whatever hi-fi interesting thing you're getting from that guitar pedal, some of it's probably getting lost by it bouncing around the room, unfortunately. However,
that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, if you have one that you feel really comfortable with, that feels really good to play, then great, go for it. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate to grab one of the Keeley Germanium Blues Disorder pedals that they had, that they partnered with, I think was it Edmund Music there in Oklahoma. And I got the gold version, which only looks different than the black version, but the gold version makes me sound better.
Yeah, of course. Because it looks cooler on the pedal board.
That's right.
I mean, and I'm a huge synth nerd as well. So don't get me wrong. I like knobs and flashing lights and buttons.
You are a huge synth nerd, and you have your own project. Which, I mean, since you brought it up, can we talk about that for a split second?
Yeah, sure. I do have. Yeah, it's more for fun than anything, but yeah.
So tell us about it. What?
So it's called Tabule. I'm actually playing a show. Oh wow, wait, this is great. I'm playing a show
Yeah, get
in
a plug.
Yeah. I didn't even think about this. This is why my band's not bigger. I never market myself. I'm playing a show in Rochester, actually. So Joywave is doing like some Christmas shows the 20th and 21st. And we're doing kind of an after party at a venue across the street. And I'm going to play a set over there. So
that is cool.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like synth, it's electronic music, but it's not EDM, it's not dancey. It's more, some people describe it as ambient, although it's more driving than ambient. Some people describe it as like industrial, which I think is kind of closer.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's kind of like, I would call it, here's me popping it with the artistic marketing spin. It's like mood industrial ambient music. And it's music you can drive your car to late at night reflectively when you're thinking about things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really good. I remember like you sent it to me, some of your first work a little bit ago, and we'll have the Spotify link here in the show notes too, so that
hell yeah,
everybody can take a listen. And I mean, I guess if your concert in Rochester has send me that link and I'll get that on here too, if there's a way to do that, or if
I know there's a poster. I'll see if I can get it and send it to you.
Yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. No, I hearing the work that you've done with Tabule has been very inspiring for me. I was Paul, I was telling James before you got on that his work there was part of my inspiration for doing my Swallowed by Sound album that I did. Because I figured, if James can do it and it's so good, and knowing how busy he is, well then, who am I to say I can't do something,
I will. I got to get you guys help because the whole thing is like live. I play live synths, and I have like one of the Chaos Pad quads. That's just like the effects unit from Chaos Pad.
Oh yeah.
And I constantly am trying different guitar pedals for a synth, like super distortion. Currently, I'm on a Fuzz Factory actually.
Oh, nice.
Which is ultra aggressive, but I might need to get your advice on how to get a good synth distortion.
I have a great one right now that I actually just got rid of to a buddy who plays a Prophet live and needed a fuzz distortion thing.
Okay.
The Dreadbox Disorder.
I mean, I like the name.
Yeah, it's also really cool artwork, and it sounds good on guitar, but it kind of sounds very 90s on guitar.
Okay.
Which ends up sounding awesome on a synth.
Okay. Hell yeah.
And it also has it has a low pass, high pass filter.
Yeah.
An envelope filter. So you can kind of shape it to like what you need it to do. And it can get like incredibly gnarly, or it can just be like a little bit of drive touch character.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun with it on a Prophet Rev. Was it Prophet 5 or something? I don't know. I was playing. It sounded incredible in the studio. So
okay, sick.
Yeah. What's cool about some of the Dreadbox stuff is they integrate a lot of CV into their their boxes. So like you'll have those like 1/8 inch jacks on the top that you can I think the sort I'm looking at now has filter in and envelope out.
Yeah. I'm looking at the same one. And a little synth snob. Interesting.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's a cool one. It gets like really like squawky too with the sense knob. There's a lot of weird sounds, which is why I liked it. And it was one of those ones where I like had it for like probably 3-4 months, and then I have way too many fuzz pedals. So I was like, my friend Nate was like, I need a fuzz for this sound. I have to play live on this, and I was like, try this one. And I was like, you just keep it.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think
I'll have to try to order one.
We have way too many pedals in general.
Yeah, yes. So,
but no, that's fun.
Speaking of reverb, I was actually A/Bing all my reverbs this weekend and trying to rule out where ones are unique and how many just do the exact same thing with a slightly nuanced like interface. And I was like, oh man, there's too many reverb pedals, and I don't even use them all.
Yep. So James, let's go back to that for a quick sec. With reverb, you're telling us about how one thing that guitarists that we don't realize with our reverbs as they're trailing out is how it's interplaying with the physical space of the room. And in our ears, like if we're wearing inner monitors, we take a listen. It sounds great because we're not typically don't have a lot of the audience microphones or the room in our ears to hear.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions? I like to break reverbs down into a couple different places. One being the more realistic. So you have like your rooms, your plates, your springs, the classic sounds, right? And then you have you go into the ambient world where it turns synthy, it's patty, it's all that fun jazz that aren't meant to emulate like literal spaces. And then you have your experimental stuff, which takes both of those and says we're going to do something totally different. Do you have any suggestions for guitarists specifically, or even synths, whatever, that may be looking to what should they be looking for when it comes to reverb pedals? Like how do you play friendly with the room, with the front of house, and still have some unique effects that you like to have as a player?
I mean, I would say, firstly, always bear in mind that if you're on ears, well, okay, let me say this for like rock venues. For churches, I don't know that this would apply as much because one, churches generally have better treated rooms, and two, they don't mix as loud as like a rock venue. But excluding churches, if you're in ears, just know that your sound is going to be wetter in the audience than it is in your ears because of the room itself.
Yeah.
So like bear in mind. Also, probably the most valuable tool you can get if you want to know how you sound is like a 50-foot cable. Just like walk out there and like listen. Nothing is gonna be able to replace that.
Sure.
But always bear in mind that it's wetter in the audience than it is in your ears. Even once the people get in the room, there's still a lot of air in that room. I would also say reverbs that like trail off are like generally like not that bad, but reverbs that like spiral up at as it goes on, that's the stuff that gets really, really harsh and takes over the whole mix, where like, at least for myself, like I can't hear anything else besides the white noise of the 45-second reverb that's spiraling up constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I would say still the best thing to do is just get either a wireless unit or a cable and go out and like just listen to it, or like have your buddy, play a chord or something, because also as a front of house engineer, like if a guitarist is like, "Hey, does this sound good?" and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I don't know what you're after. I don't know what good is to you. Like to me, it sounds great, but like to you, it may sound terrible. So.
Right.
Going out and being able to listen, or if you have a front house guy that has like virtual sound check, that can have him actually play it back with the whole mix or something, that can be very valuable too.
True.
I have a question piggybacking off of Alan's question, because I think that was good. Also, the reverb in the room thing is something I learned the first time I used in-ears, and I was like, there was actually a room mic at the church I was playing at the time, and I turned on a reverb that I thought sounded awesome when I played with it at home. And then the room just made it sound like, it actually made my guitar sound so thin because it was lost in the wave of everything. And I was like, that is not good. That's a bad
What
thing.
is happening?
Yeah, that sounds terrible. But so we discussed how drives don't make a difference live, which there's probably people listening that are going to listen to this and be like, what do you mean they don't make a difference live?
Dude, I'm about to become the most unpopular person on Reddit that's ever existed.
Well, we are going to put your home address on the show notes so people can send you hate mail.
Is there an effect that does make a difference quality live, or is it all does it just all wash out in the rain?
You guys are gonna hate this answer.
I'm asking it because I'm so ready for whatever it is.
Yeah.
The one pedal that I would say more often than not makes my life easier is a gate right after the tuner. Oh my goodness. A gate right after the tuner. Anytime you're playing some venue that's right below train tracks, or like there's some Avengers style metal like electrical storm outside, a gate will save your life. Just like I don't know which gates are good or bad, but like having a gate after your tuner is a lifesaver. Yes, it sacrifices tone sometimes, but my My goodness, it is very helpful.
I like that answer, actually. I'm putting
for
it
someone who hates gates. I don't ever play, in a Marvel movie. So, can you expand that a little bit further and help me understand? Because I'm already feeling the whole guitarist versus front of house guy vibe right now.
Yep. Well, okay. So, I mean, depending on your guitar as well, obviously. Like if you have humbuckers and like it's a properly set up guitar with a shielded cavity for the humbuckers and everything, probably not going to be as much of an issue. But if you're playing like a nice vintage Strat or something and you don't want to be in a middle position, then it's going to be noisy, especially like if you go overseas, because Europe power is on 220 to 240 volts. So you got to get a step down transformer. Then you go through like a plug adapter. Then you go in. So you've got all kinds of ground hum and weird stuff coming from the electricity. And like if you have a guitar that like there was an artist I toured with that I signed an NDA about, so I can't say their name. Probably wouldn't be that hard to find, but one of their guitars, the bass especially, was like it was a very old vintage, like I think like a 60s or 70s. It's called I forget what it's called, but it actually was microphonic, so like it would be picking up like the cymbals and stuff.
Oh wow!
And we would constantly go back and forth. Not in a negative way, we weren't like fighting, but like we'd constantly go back and forth. And I'd be like, we got to get a gate. Like there's like nothing I can do to clean it up because okay, the first rule of sound is if you put shit in, shit is going to come out. Even if it's polished shit at the end, it's still shit. So like if your bass sound, the original, like the source of the sound is noisy or bad, there's nothing I can do as a front of house engineer to make it sound good. And ground hum especially can be brutal, because if you put ground hum through a distortion pedal and then a reverb, it's like the eternal ground hum.
I think that's called shoegaze.
Yeah, that's true.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so a noise gate would basically clamp off the sound coming in until you make it loud enough so that the sound continues through like a gate would. Paul, I'm trying to remember if we talked about noise gates in our early
I think
series.
I lumped it into the utility pedals that we weren't going to talk about because I don't care about them when we were doing that.
So we didn't talk about them.
Yeah. I listed all the ones that I was like, I don't care about this. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, some of these I think are malarkey. Yeah. Gate is not malarkey, for the record, of the ones that I was lumping in there. It's just I don't want to talk about it, but we are now, and I think it is important. So
here's one thing about a gate though that everyone messes up, and I think this is part of the reason a lot of guitarists hate this. For a gate, if you try to put the gate after your drives or after your effects or something towards the end of the pedal board, it is completely useless. You have to have the gate before all of your other, I mean, maybe not a tuner, like whatever, but before all of your other pedals, because then you're like, once the ground hum sound gets into the drive pedal, it's over. There's no way you can set the gate to cut that out. However, if you put it before the drive pedals, it's way less impactful for your tone, but it actually cuts out the stuff you're trying to get out. So I think a lot of guitarists hate gates because they're not using them properly.
Well, that makes sense.
I would say.
I would agree. I mean, I would be the one that's like, I'll put it at the very end so it doesn't get all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. So it chops it off.
Right. So, for me, I love Telly's single coil pickups. And hum is an issue that I have faced throughout the years. So, had I had a properly placed and positioned gate in my signal chain, I probably wouldn't be as angry in life as I am right now.
It's possible.
Yeah.
That would actually fix all the ills if you just had a noise gate. All the bad feelings go away.
Every single one.
You can gate your emotions too.
It's like the chicken noodle soup of a pedal board.
There you go.
Yeah. See, I think, James, you're actually going to end up being very loved on this podcast because I do know I spend time in many effects and synth and guitar forums, and I have actually seen some debates about noise gates, and I feel like the explanation we went through here is actually going to help quite a few lost souls understand what's going on and why they should have one. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I will say I am not as familiar with, guitar, like the various different actual gates. I know from speaking to some of my guitar friends that there is some that are better and some that are worse
Sure.
as far as what it does to your tone. Also, like, go look. Okay, so like on a gate, you've got a couple controls. One is threshold. Threshold is how loud the sound has to be to open the gate to allow sound through. One is attack. Attack is how quickly it opens. One is decay. Decay is how quickly it closes. And then one normally is called sustain. Similar. This is all similar to ADSR, like synth. Sustain is how long it stays open after the like you're under the threshold. So also
okay.
tweaking those and understanding those controls can be very, very impactful to how the gate sounds in your tone, for what that's worth.
I think it's very valuable. Because I think it's it's one of those things that I had to look all that up to understand what that meant.
Sure.
Not just now when you said it, but in previous.
Right.
And it's like I just didn't understand the concept of what a noise gate was. I think generally I did. It was like it made all the unwanted noise, or it made you had to play a certain volume. But oftentimes if you don't dial it up, it just chops your sound. It either opens way too fast or closes way too fast, or especially gated fuzzes. I used to hate gated fuzzes, and I think in fact when we first started this podcast, Paul, I said the only fuzzes that I will even listen to are open ones that aren't gated. But it's also because I've like literally like this year I've started to understand more about noise gates and just gates in general, and how my tone gets affected, but how my playing kind of interplays with those gates. So
yeah, absolutely.
This is gold. This really is. And I think I'm kind of picturing, someone like, a listener who isn't a professional guitarist. And I know like you've toured with, a lot of different bands that have like professional guitarists, guitar techs, all that sort of stuff. Like that's what they make their living on. But there's a lot of us that, playing is fun. It's only fun. It's either, we might just be bedroom players at home at night, or we might, have our own little studio at home where we're recording stuff. It may just be like, the weekend bar gigs or whatever the case is. And there's some of us that probably are aspiring to make this a career, like playing as a career. And regardless of where we are in our life of playing, these tidbits of knowledge are very useful.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So I'm loving what you're bringing to us. And so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I like definitely a gate it's obviously not the most fun effect. It's actually the opposite of a fun effect. It literally kills your sound. But as a utility, extremely helpful. The only thing is you got to watch out, because like we've had issues where we get the gate dialed perfectly and it's great, and then they play a guitar that's like a little bit quieter, just like from the guitar, messes it all up. You got to like make sure, you got to switch that threshold down or up or whatever to make it work the same. But
yeah, no, that makes sense. I would like to see Chase Bliss make a gate pedal.
Either Chase
with them.
Yes, they're crazy. They're great. Yeah.
I mean, they just came out with their stereo compressor pedal, Clean, which was wild.
Yeah.
So I can imagine them doing a gate. Joel, if you're listening,
Joel, please help me as a front house engineer.
The Chase Bliss gate.
Make a gate that's fun for people.
So hey, random transition over here with the Chase Bliss. I have seen a lot of folks, engineers like yourself, who have used their CXM 1978 Lexicon style reverb pedal as outboard gear.
Yep.
This is not at all what I was expecting to talk to you about, but we're here. We're just doing it. Do you use any effects from a front of house standpoint? Not like what's inside your D-Live, like not the built-in. And while 500 series and other outboard gear is cool, I'm thinking more specifically of like pedal format or module.
I do. I don't take it out as much anymore, but with Walk the Moon, I used two different guitar pedals. I used a 500 series rack to have the radial. I forget what. Oh wait, it's right here. Hold on. What's it called? The EXTC, which transforms it from XLR to quarter inch, and then you can have like a volume control so you don't blow in the pedal up.
Okay.
But I used a JHS color box for vocal distortion.
Yeah.
And then I used an Eventide H9 for like delay and reverb that I could program per song. But yeah, I actually for like 5 years almost, I carried that, and like I carried it all in a 500 series like chassis, and they were like velcroed to the side of it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean that color box though. I mean, I'm sure
the
everyone knows
color
about
box,
it, but
I actually just got the new colorway of that because I've been looking at
yeah,
it for Infinity, and I'd heard specifically for vocals, it just sounds great.
yeah, it's
And
incredible.
it was one of those things where, because I mainly am recording, it's like starting at the finish line for vocals, where you're not
Yeah,
like fighting with it in post as much.
yeah.
Especially when you're trying to get that like saturation and a little bit of grit to things, and then it can get like really blown out too, which is really fun.
Yeah, that's actually how I used it. So I had it set up on an aux, like a separate fader, and then it was ran as like an insert. So I had my clean vocals on one fader and then my just ultra distorted vocals on the other fader, and I ran them in parallel. And like, if it was just like a slightly overdrive vocal, you just bring it up a tiny bit. And if it was like super distorted, you like basically swap and do the, distortion higher. But yeah, it's basically a classic Neve preamp that actually has headroom. But yeah, it's phenomenal for like vocals and bass. I would say it's like incredible.
Those are the two that I have found myself really digging on it. I haven't quite mastered the direct in guitar that doesn't sound farty that like they kind of
Yeah, right.
advertise.
Yeah,
I'm like, how do I get that Beatles sound out of you? But yeah,
right.
bass and vocals. I also did a thing the other day where like the XLR out was kind of like this is just the warm from this, and then I had the quarter inch out on the hologram chroma console.
Oh, okay.
And was running vocals. So like there's one like clean but colored vocals, and then one that was just like vocals that I had like fuzz and a weird like space delay on.
Yeah.
And that was very fun as well. So
yeah,
great pedal.
I think that's a pedal that Paul's not going to let me ever use.
No, it's been plugged. It's literally been plugged in and not moved since it arrived. So
well, hey,
you showed it to me, but I couldn't touch it. I wasn't allowed to.
JHS is based in Kansas City. If Josh is listening to this, tell him to hit me up, and I'll come grab you one and send it over. They're not too far. They're like only a half hour from my house or something. So.
Oh wow, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that last time I was in Kansas City. You were like, "Oh, if we had more time, we could go over here and here and here." And I was like, "Oh, JHS. I've never thought about that."
Yeah, like
we spent more time at cool speakeasies though. So
well, that sounds about right for me.
Yeah,
it was funny for a minute. I had like 5 or 6 friends from like my old band that like all were working at JHS at the same time, and I was like, oh, I kind of feel left out. Like, oh, I should have got a job down there.
Oh. I mean, there's still time.
Yeah, it's true. I am home right now, I guess. It is right before the holidays, though.
Right. Okay, so let's transition over to delay effects. I don't know why something somebody said a minute ago got me thinking about this. I remember I was doing a gig with I was filling in for a guy, and the singer turns over to me, and he's I'm like fumbling around with my Line 6 DL4. This is years ago. Just we had no rehearsal. I got virtually no tracks ahead of time to even listen to, and just my buddy was like, just do your thing. And I'm like, well, my thing takes time. So whatever. So like, we're at sound check. We're going through some songs, and like, I'm trying to quick dial in. I'm trying to learn. And, I make a wrong turn on my playing, and the lead singer turns over to me, and, kind of an ass, but he was like, you know what I don't like about delay pedals? You hit one note wrong, and then it just keeps going. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Thanks, man.
That's true. As a front of house guy, you're hearing everything coming in. And if you get somebody who is doing, I mean, I don't care what kind of, like, how professional you are, we're all human. We're going to make a mistake every now and then, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to delay effects that take that mistake and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, do you have any, I mean, do you want to get anything off your chest? Do you just want to yell at us real quick, or, and then also like any tips on that, on how to, like, something that we could, as a guitarist, could take and learn to dial in a certain, like, whether it's a mix or feedback, whatever the case is, from your perspective, to make the overall sound better.
Yeah. Well, okay. So 2 things in regards to delay. One, delay is by far my favorite effect. I actually, as a front of house engineer, I constantly have a quarter note delay on the lead vocal that I'm just constantly like fading in and out, on the whole set. So sometimes I am the like, if I fade it in and then the singer hits the note wrong, I'm like, that wasn't ideal. But I would say for delay, so the way I mix, I have all my inputs, right? And then I have all my inputs go to groups. So I have a group that's like a kick snare, drum kit, bass, guitar, whatever. And then I have my fingers on those faders the whole set. And I view it as like I'm playing the band the way they're playing instruments, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So for me, if I hear some, like, a guitarist with like a big delay hit a wrong note, I just kind of fade it down a little bit until it's gone. But I would say, for guitarists dealing with something like that, your guitar in your ears is way louder than it is out front.
Mm-hmm.
So even though in your ears it sounds like the entire show is falling apart, like, this is you have to trust your sound guy, but even if you don't trust your sound guy, like, they do have all the other things out front as well. So like,
right.
it's less aggressive sounding out front than it is in your ears, I would say. Because like, there have been times when, I go backstage after show and the guitarist is like, oh, I missed this one note and like the whole song fell apart. And I was like, I didn't even hear it, honestly. And like, I know the song better than you do because I know everyone's parts in that song.
Right.
So like, I would say, 1, rest easy in the knowledge that it's not as aggressively wrong out front as it is in your ears. But 2, I would say also, like, the reason people come to see live music is kind of subconsciously for the potential of disaster. Like, when you, I mean, when you hear a band, right, and they have some kind of crazy song and you're just like, how are they going to do this live? And then they do it and they pull it off. It's that much better, right?
Right.
Like, you don't want to see them fail, but like, the sense of impending disaster there is like kind of what gives it that adrenaline. So like, if you get a note wrong, that's part of live music. That's part of the show. If people want to hear it perfect, they'll go listen to the record. So
true. And I think, like, coming to to live shows, I want it to be a different experience than the record.
I actively try to make it a different experience than the record. If I want to hear the record, I'll listen to the record. But like, when I was much younger, I saw Muse at like a festival, and it was like the best show I've ever seen. And the reason is because it was better than the record, because it was the record with extra awesome live stuff on top of it. Yeah. And like, that's what I aim to do, as front of house. I want to recreate that for everyone else.
Yeah. Okay. So totally off topic here. I think the last time I saw you in person may have been in Detroit, when Walkman was supporting the Muse.
I think it probably was, because then COVID hit right after that.
Yeah. First of all,
did you guys not meet up in Philly one time for a synthesizer trade?
No, we were going to, but then you ended up having to ship it to me.
No, I took it.
Oh no, you took it to the venue. Yeah.
I was like, I remember that because I was in theory gonna come meet you, James, if it didn't work out for Alan too, and then I was like, that didn't work out.
No, I ended up flying it. I had to go to Denver for work, which
that's what happened.
Tour with on tour and going through, and I had it go to the venue. Crazy, but no, okay, so this is not pedal related at all, but okay, so you were front of house for Walk the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all were supporting the Muse. I'm trying.
Are you saying the Muse?
Because I'm old.
The band is
the band Muse.
The band Muse. Y'all were supporting Muse, and it was a killer show because I came out and I saw you, and we hung out and got to see the show. But what is it like? Muse being one of those bands that are the kind of like, they're quintessential and a lot of musicians like inspirations and like favorites in many ways. What was it like seeing them pretty much every day?
I mean, well, my career is in perpetual decline from that. That was the peak, and I know that, and I'm fine with it. But I mean, it's incredible. Like everything they do, like the way they craft their show. Like I mean, you saw it, but like, the show starts and it's in arenas, and they have a bunch of production and like obviously they sound fantastic because Mark Carolan is like some kind of wizard or something, or maybe he sold his soul. But they start the show, and every time you think it can't get bigger, like, oh, there's lighting emplacements around the arena. Oh, there's lasers now. Oh, there's confetti now. Oh, there's a giant inflatable robot behind the stage. Oh, there's dancers that came down, suspended in front of the screen. Like the way, like their showcraft, the way it kept just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Incredible. I will say specifically related to guitar pedals, after like a week or so, when because the first couple shows of the tour, no one knows each other. The crews aren't like, they're not friendly, but you're not friends with the other crew yet, or you don't know them. So after like a week or so, you start to get to know them a little bit. And like I was talking to Matt Bellamy's guitar tech, because it's crazy. Like, so their stage is custom built, so their monitor world, their guitar tech world, their drum tech world, and their bass tech world all actually live on 8x8 risers. They don't even take them apart. They just roll them straight into the truck, and like they're all underneath the stage, and they have like various access points or whatever to get up there. But there's my favorite Muse song they didn't play on the tour. It's called Map of the Problematic.
Great song.
Yeah. It's the one that has the octave, like the like sequenced octave, like like on the guitar chords.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I asked the guitar tech, because he was like talking and like kind of chilling with us for a minute. I was like, hey, okay, I only have one question for you. And he's like, okay, what is it? And I was like, how does he do the Map of the Problematic sound? And he's like, I only have one thing I have an NDA about. And I was like, oh, come on.
Oh, wow.
You gotta be kidding me.
Wow.
And he was like, if you came and looked at the racks, you could probably figure it out. And I was like, I mean, I know 30 different ways to do it, but that's not my question is, how did he do it?
Yeah, how did he do it? Make it sound that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, they're just an incredible band. If you've never seen Muse, go see Muse. It is whatever amount of money, it's worth it. Like, especially as a guitar person.
It is. Yeah. Because what Matt does with those guitars, it's just unreal.
It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of their earlier albums kind of got me really wanting a Chaos Pad. Because he created that into his
That's why I bought one.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
Yeah. I even thought about like buying a guitar and then gutting, like drilling out a section to put a Chaos Pad in.
The only reason I didn't do it was because routers were really expensive and I was worried about chopping my fingers off. So
yeah.
Yeah. But maybe someday.
Yeah. Maybe. And I mean, if anyone listened back to like one of the early episodes, like I think we were talking with, Chris from like Jones Pedals about, starting a pedal company. I made a comment about like just the idea of possibly burning my hands on a soldering gun would be that's just like, no, absolutely not. So same, I hear that concern about chopping things off the router. I no longer want to even attempt that.
Yeah.
That thought.
Well, I mean, Matt Bellamy bought that guitar company, Manson Guitars, and now they sell them. So you can get your own.
There we go.
I think they're like 6,000 pounds, but so
6,000 pounds in terms of the cost or how much they weigh.
No, like Great British pounds. Okay. I don't know how much they weigh. Pounds sterling. 6,000 UK currency pounds.
I actually just looked this up, and they make one that has the Chaos Pad built into it now. And it's only like $1,700, which seems like it should be more.
Wow. Okay. I was completely
Doesn't it
wrong.
seem like it'd be more? Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
How much does it weigh? How many pounds does it weigh?
I'm just going to drop the specs in the chat, and you guys can look at it. I was like, I'm going to Google while we're talking about this because I want to know. And there it is.
Yeah. No, it's wild.
So kind of cool.
Yeah. Paul,
Yes.
bring
Should
us
we
some
transition
knowledge.
to the question portion of the
Well,
podcast?
I feel like we could just be sitting here and talking with James all day long.
Yeah, this
which is
happens with
great.
every guest. We pick
I don't
people we
got
like,
I don't got anything to
and
do.
then- yeah, I could talk all day with James. That's true anytime. So James, we have 3 questions we ask everyone. Well, we
Okay.
ask people that are players, so you'll get them as questions as a musician yourself.
Okay.
And then I did queue up a front of house related question for our post of the week for us all to answer. So
Okay.
we'll have that. So I'm going to rapid fire these questions. They're not hard. Should be easy. So first one, what was your first effects pedal?
Oh, first, apart from a tuner, first effects pedal was the Boss Metal Zone Distortion.
Oh, hell yeah. You're going to make
Yeah.
so many people happy on forums with that one. 'Cause that's like the meme answer to like, what pedal should I buy next? Boss Metal Zone.
Dude. Yep. I think I stole it from the guitarist in my band, actually.
I love that.
Nice.
Fantastic first pedal. Awesome. The next question, your current favorite pedal?
My current favorite pedal. I mean, I would probably say either the Walrus 385 or the Walrus ARP 87. Both of those have been big for me recently.
All right. Is that why when I first joined, you guys were looking at the 385 Mark II?
Yeah, he was just telling me about it. Yeah.
Well, he had the 385 right there, and he said he hadn't played with the Mark II, so I was showing it to him.
Yeah.
The Mark II is very cool. Just putting 2 of the same circuit and a high gain switch. I like it a lot. So,
yeah.
Yeah. I actually have not. I was just thinking when you said, I don't know if I've played the ARP.
Oh, dude, it's great.
No.
The ARP and then which whatever. Hold on. The Fathom, the ARP 87 and the Fathom are both together are phenomenal.
The Fathom, I actually had a Fathom when I went. So I was on the Helix for a little while, and then I got back into buying pedals during COVID because I was sad and wanted things that brought me joy again. And the Fathom was like, I think the 3rd or 4th one I got in like rebuying new pedals that I missed during the Helix years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a good reverb pedal.
Yeah.
And for a mono reverb too, it sounds huge. And like, it's hard to get a bad sound out of the settings on it.
Okay, I got to give a small disclaimer though, because I talked so much shit about not having reverbs that spiral up at the end, and the Fathom literally has a switch that does that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got the infinite hold switch.
Yeah, so I know people on Reddit or wherever are going to give me shit. Here's the difference though, is that one is controlled. You can let it go and it fades out. It doesn't just go for eternity. So
there you go.
Before you come at me, I know what I'm talking about. Don't you worry.
Self-awareness here.
Also that. Maybe an excess of that, actually.
Yeah. All right. So I'm actually going to try the ARP now, because if it's a James reviewed one, I should probably check it out. It's one I missed.
Tell Philip I sent you. He'll love it.
Will do. And then the last question here before we get into our group think one. Who inspires you to try new gear? Artist, friend, etc. We all talked about Matt Bellamy, but who inspires you to try new gear?
Like a specific person?
I mean, we've had this answered a bunch of different ways, so whatever comes to you, let the spirit lead.
I would say more recently, there's an artist called Neil Blomkamp. I don't know how to say his last name. He does like these like minimal electronic stuff. But like his has like vocals. His is a little more like structured than mine. I think it's, hold on. Let me look up so I can, but he trying to like, I would say the thing that inspires me is hearing a sound like in a song and like trying to reverse engineer how they did that. But this particular Blomkamp, Neil Blom.
Oh, he's a composer.
Blomkamp, yeah.
Okay. He's done some good stuff too.
Yeah. He often will have sounds like that, and I'm just like, what, like, how did they do that? Like, what was that? You know? But when I'm listening to music and stuff like that, like that's like also bands like Massive Attack and Portishead and stuff, even still, I'll go listen and be like, what is that sound? Like, how did they do that? But I would say the most recent one would be Neil Blomkamp. Even though his is less gear and more musical technique, but still.
Yeah. Well, those things like sometimes bleed into each other as like, well, he's using this and he got this cool sound, so maybe if I use it, which is actually sometimes a not correct assessment I've learned when I buy something that someone else used cool, because it's just how they use it and how their brain works, and mine doesn't work that way.
Oh, I know this. I know that feeling well.
Well, when you guys were talking about the Chaos Pad, I remember being like, I should get a Chaos Pad, and then being like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with this.
Okay.
It's like a
But
young person.
a good way to start, they make one called the Chaos Pad Quad, and it's just the effects, but it's like an XY controller that you can control with your finger. It's just the effects. It's super powerful. You can just like run it as like an insert, basically. I'll send you guys a picture of my like synth board setup after
Please
this.
do.
But I use it constantly in the live show.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So James actually credit here. Most succinct answer to the 3 questions of a guest so far, I'm pretty sure, because you've had an answer for each one. Because usually people are like, oh, I could talk about so many different things. And you're like, boom, 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 boom. So I'm like, wow, we're killing it today.
Yeah.
I just had coffee, so I'm sharp right now.
Yeah. Dialing in. All right. So let me pull up. I got a Reddit question. It's from Our Guitar Pedals. And I'm going to read the question and the context, and I'm also going to read the first comment just for laughs because it made me laugh when I got there. So the question is, best way to run vocals through Guitar Pedals Live and not piss off the sound guy. Okay, here's the context. It's been a while since I've played live singing. I use distortion for an AM radio type of effect, and sometimes quite wet reverb, echo, and a graphic EQ. Effects the front of house guy doesn't have or never gets it right. This is awesome already. What setup do I need to run a balance signal from an SM58 through my pedals to front of house? It was suggested I get a splitter with 2 male ends from the mic to have 1 dry signal, 1 wet. But what type of cables adapters do I need to run XLR to quarter inch and still have balance? Cheers to all front house guys who don't act like I'm inconveniencing you when I show up with this more than just an acoustic guitar. Appreciate you guys. Now, the first comment is, don't sweat it. The sound guy's already pissed. Nothing you do or don't will change that.
Okay, that is incredibly accurate. Yeah, if you show up to the venue at all, the sound guy is going to be pissed. Actually, even as a sound guy, when I show up to the venue, the other sound guy is pissed. So, I would say well, 2 things. One, so you need to go look at impedance levels and understand that. Also sometimes referred to as high Z and low Z. So an XLR, like microphone, cable, and signal, is going to have a very different impedance level than the circuitry electronics in a guitar. So if you want your vocal mic to go through guitar pedals, you need to get an impedance transformer, which I believe so that's basically what a DI box, like one of the things a DI box does. I think Radial makes some specifically for this kind of thing. If you can get an impedance transformer with a gain level on it, that's even better. 2, the advice about splitting the signal and giving the front house guy a dry and a wet is very good. I mean, if you can dial it in, he shouldn't need the dry. But also, if you're putting like distortion and reverb and stuff, chances are it's going to feed back, and you're going to want to have that dry to like rely back on a little bit. You know. But I mean, if you literally Google XLR Y cable, that it's an XLR that splits into 2 XLRs, so that's easy. But so I'd say get the XLR Y cable. You run your mic into the Y cable. One side of the Y cable goes straight to front of house. Other side goes into your impedance transformer through your pedals, and then depending on what the last pedal on the chain is, maybe another impedance transformer to get it back to XLR,
right? Because
you're going to be transforming from XLR to quarter inch and then quarter inch back to XLR, and then that would work probably. I've had some vocalists do that, and honestly, as a front of house guy, I don't hate it because then I don't have to worry about getting the effect right. And also, if it fails, it's your fault, not mine. So,
yeah, it's kind of on them to trigger it at the right time. It's not like another thing for you to think about. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't. This is a time where, with a question like this, I don't have a better answer, so I'm not going to answer this one because James's answer is. Yeah, I was like, James knows more than we do.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would say is there's probably like, so you could look at, I mean, Old Blood Noise makes their Maw pedal, which is a vocal effects. So there are some pedals out there that are designed to do the impedance transforming and matching. So, but yeah, that is super important. And yeah, nothing else to add. You did it, James. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would says that's the thesis of this episode.
I would also say there is companies that make like vocal multi effects that I wouldn't call them pedals. They're like kind of pedal shaped and they have buttons, but do they sound phenomenal? No, but they will get the effect that you desire, and especially if you split out your dry signal, then like it can work, you know. And I mean, if you get to the point where you're in a pro touring band and you have a front of house guy, like each individual issue you can tackle in whatever way. Sometimes the front of house guy doing it, sometimes you doing it from stage. I mean, like on this last Joywave tour, he wanted like a phone effect. And so we got a literal like 1950s phone and like had to like wire our guitar tech wired it up to, so like he just literally like switches from one mic to the phone for like that line and then switches back. So like each individual problem may have a different solution, but yeah, in general, the multi effects pedals are actually fine. They're okay.
Well, they're generally not they're meant to do a little bit of everything.
Yes. Right? Yeah. They're not super specialized at whatever.
What do they call it? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. It's extremely master of none, I would say. But nonetheless, if you want a little bit of distortion, they can kind of do it.
Mm. Well, James, thank you so much. It was awesome to hear you talk and give us, I mean, honestly, a lot of knowledge, and it was a benefit. I mean, I learned a lot, and I'm really, really appreciative of that and your time, of course.
Thank you guys for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah. So for, like I said, we'll put in the show notes, we'll put, some like James's Instagram and stuff on there, and as well as Spotify over to Tabulé.
Hell yeah.
His home address that if you want to send hate mail to, you can also do that. We didn't talk about barbecue, but if you want to send him some North Carolina barbecue as hate mail, you can do that. That's offensive to Kansas City.
Take your coleslaw, get out of here with that.
Yeah. If you're in the Rochester area, December, what were the dates? 20th, 21st?
The 20th and 21st. Yeah.
Okay. Tabulé's playing a live show. I recommend you go. I think, Paul, you said moody industrial. So it meets that. It is fantastic.
I wear a nice silver visor when I play too. You can't see my face at all. It's really fun.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
That's how you know it's cool, is if you can't see the guy.
Yeah.
If the guy's pretending to be Daft Punk, you know it's good.
Yeah. A whole genre of music based on that.
That's true.
Moving forward though, James, do you have another tour lined up? 2025?
I have some stuff. I also, when I'm not on the road, I do like corporate stuff at home. So I have a little bit of corporate stuff in January. And then I have a couple potential tours in like March, April moving forward. I don't think they're released yet. So
I've been to several shows you've mixed, and it does sound great. So
thanks.
If you have the opportunity to see a band that James mixes for, we'll make sure to put that somewhere on our channel at some point. Like, hey, this is James. He's mixing for these guys.
We can make that that can be the onus of the listener. They can go to James's Instagram, follow him, and then James will post where he's going.
There you go.
That's a way better thing than just us later remembering to do it, which we won't. So.
And I can say from, again, also seeing James mix many times, he is very engaged in what he does. He is not one of those folks that just stand there and touch a button every once in a while. He mixes that board. Like he said, he plays.
And it's also so impressive when I'm standing in front of house with him and he can have a conversation with me, but then while talking to me, still trigger things, change things, drink a beer in between, and then still make sure he hits all the cues. It's really impressive. And like, give little commentary on what's going to happen next and what he doesn't like or does like about the show. I love it.
Mostly doesn't, but yeah.
Well, let's hope that 2025 brings us into the same city and we can see each other.
Yeah,
again.
I'd love that.
I would truly love that. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode with James. We had a lot of fun catching up with him and talking about the things we as guitar players do that aren't necessarily great for front of house.
Yeah.
We do however, want to talk about our Black Friday giveaway, especially since we are on the doorstep of Black Friday.
I mean, it's right on the corner.
For those of you, there's some folks have already entered into the drawing with upping their membership to annual or joining us as annual members. But for those of you who are maybe on the fence or waiting, we actually have sweetened the pot.
Ooh.
So, Alan, do you want to talk about what we did here?
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who may not be up to speed, for Black Friday, Paul and I announced, I think was it last week or the week before, that anyone who joins our Patreon as an annual subscriber, and by the way, we're talking a $30 thing, right? Because it's $3 a month, but we also have a discount for the annual, $30. Anyone who does that is going to get a chance, they're going to get a Dr. Scientist preset pack with 16 different presets for the Mercury X that were based and inspired off the Dr. Scientist atmosphere. Those are only available to our annual subscribers, and they're killer. But we're also giving away a Maris Mercury X that we've used in making these presets to one lucky random annual subscriber. Don't worry, we still have one, a Mercury X to continue making content with, so it's not a thing, but we wanted to spread that up. But Paul, I feel like I asked you this earlier on, like, what if somebody already has a Mercury X? What do we do?
Well, so if you already have a Mercury X, you get some presets for it you can't get anywhere else. But we're adding to this giveaway, if you already have a Mercury X and you're like, don't really need the Mercury X atmosphere presets, I don't need to go annual. Well, we're now letting the winner choose between an LVX and a Mercury X. So that means if you have a Mercury X and you want to annually subscribe, you can enter a chance to win an LVX as opposed to Mercury X and choose that one. So same rules apply. Every annual membership is one entry into winning. And anytime you gift a membership to someone, that is another entry into potentially winning. So there's no limit to gifts, so you can keep putting your name in the pot that way. And if you win, you as the winner can choose between a Mercury X if you don't have one and want one. They're great reverb pedals. Or if you already have a Mercury X, or even if you don't and you want a delay pedal instead, you can choose the LVX. So Pretty cool. We were excited to sort of expand this. And yeah, lots of cool stuff to come with this giveaway.
Cool. So, all right, everybody, jump over to patreon.com/thepedalcollaborative or patreon.com/thepedalcollaborative/gift if you want to do the gift option to a friend or foe.
Yes, a foe, you can enter a foe if you still want to try to win.
Yeah,
so
totally.
It doesn't have to be someone you're friends with that you're giving a benevolent Christmas gift. Some of you might give it to someone who doesn't like the sound of Alan's voice and you're just trying to plague them with a free membership.
Right. So. But the best thing is, like, you're still getting a chance to win the Mercury X or LVX. Like, so you win. Like, I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? So you may win, but you win in that you have an added chance. And you're also sticking it to that foe with the sound of my voice for a year. But yeah, all right, everybody. So I think this whole thing runs through the end of December 15th. So don't delay or reverb.
Nice little pun there. Yes, thank you. Yes. If you have any questions about it, you can message us on Instagram or our Patreon if you want to know, hey, how's this work? But we'd love to hear from you. We're excited to give these pedals away, one of these pedals away to a lucky winner, and excited to share some of the presets that are exclusive to annual folks as well. So thank you guys all so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, everybody. Peace.